Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for participating despite your very busy schedule. Now we'd like to declare the opening of the JAMA press conference. Taking into account the COVID-19 infection prevention, this meeting is held remotely online. Now, I would like to introduce 7 speakers today. The JAMA Chairman Akio Toyoda, Vice Chairman Katayama Masanori, Vice Chairman Suzuki Toshihiro, Vice Chairman Uchida Makoto, Vice Chairman Mibe Toshihiro, Vice Chairman Hidaka Yoshihiro, Vice Chairman Nagatsuka Seiichi. So they are the executives of the JAMA. So first, we'd like to introduce Mr. Toyoda, the chair, to say a few words. Good morning, everyone. At today's board meeting, new executive members officially decided at JAMA. In the last half year, before the start of the new leadership structure, the chairman and vice chairman had regular meetings to deepen understanding for common challenge. In addition, to promote JAMA actions with sense of speed. As I thought, it is most important to know the facts in the Gemba field. We set up a support team of the younger members of the companies of the chair and the vice chair. And the motto is Genchi Genbutsu Genjitsu, to focus on the field, the actual things, and reality. This is a joint initiative beyond the company walls. And today, I would like to focus on some of the priority themes to be taken up by the new leadership at present. Despite the COVID-19 shortage of semiconductors and impact by natural disasters, we are struggling hard to sustain the supply chain. We are witnessing sad, unbearable reality of the military invasion. The world economic future outlook turned non-transparent due to the resources and food price hikes. Because of this time of risk, we need strong will to continue reform toward the future. The biggest theme is realization of the carbon neutral society. Carbon neutrality urges us to change our lives fundamentally. Automobile industry, which support the people's lives through mobility, is urged to change. At first, I myself did not understand what to do. First, I started to call out, let's understand carbon neutrality accurately. Carbon is the enemy. Internal combustion engine is not. CO2 emission reduction should be done in all the processes of energy production, transportation, and use. There is no one path to climb to the top of the carbon neutrality. To make the most use of technology, option should not be limited by regulation. By repeating such messages, we promoted implementation experiments and announced the findings. As a result, our messages were well received, and we have increased partners who would like to collaborate with us. I think carbon neutrality is a chance for the Japanese automobile industry to hone CASE technology. As CASE evolves, the values created by cars and mobility service will further expand. I think automobile is a growth industry because it is transforming to be mobility industry. Therefore, we can be the driving force for growth and distribution advocated by Kishida administration. In the last 2 years under COVID-19 pandemic, we spent in Japan 12 trillion yen in capital investment for plant equipment R&D, earned 25 trillion yen for foreign currency, and created 270,000 jobs.
The auto industry is proud to have supported the growth of Japan. From the perspective of distribution, at this year's labor management consultations, JAMA member companies took the lead in creating momentum towards wage increase. However, we also have challenges. Only 30% of workers in the auto industry have access to the negotiating table. It is important to bring the benefits to the 70% who have no access to unions. Neither carbon neutrality nor growth and distribution can be realized without efforts. We need a strong commitment to make Japan better. And we have to take action together under the national strategy. In order to do so, this year, we need to take a big step forward on the reform of automobile taxation. The industry will call for a Honebuto fiscal and economic policy discussion that departs from the traditional approach of on years, or years in which taxation is renewed, and off years, or the silo-based government structure. What Japan needs now is a growth strategy that overcomes energy issues and take action towards carbon neutrality and accelerate that move, and to create a path to renewal. The taxation system needs to be scrutinized within the context of the growth strategy and industry policy. This year, from a broad perspective, we will deepen discussions on review of the automotive taxation system and identify a path to reform. One more thing. Next year is the year of the Tokyo Motor Show. Last time we had the participation of other industries and had 1.3 million visitors. We proved that working with other industries focusing on automobiles, we can attract over 1 million people. Based on this learning, at next year's Tokyo Motor Show, we want to rename it to Japan All Industry Show. Going beyond the mobility industry, with the entire Japanese industry working as one team, including startups, we want to make it a place where many people come together. We are aiming at making it a totally new show and transform the show both in name and reality. Please look forward to it. Last but not least, I believe that the auto industry works as one team. The future is to be created by the team. The strength of the Japanese auto industry is that in addition to passenger cars, commercial vehicles, mini cars, and motorcycles are included within the industry. We have a full lineup. Capitalizing upon this strength, we will fulfill our role as a pacemaker in both the carbon neutrality, in growth and distribution. Please keep up your expectations on the auto industry. For the future and for the earth, with will and passion, we will take action as a team, so please continue to support us.
Thank you very much. Now, we would like to entertain questions and comments. Today, this is the conference organized by the JAMA. Therefore, we are not to entertain any questions to each company. And then we'd like to give the opportunity to as many people as possible. So please ask just one question per person. I would really like to express our appreciation to your understanding. We would like to nominate a person who would be asking a question. When you are nominated, please turn on your microphone and video function. Now, please raise your hand on your PC screen. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm Mr. Taruno of NHK, please. Taruno of NHK. Can you hear me? Yes. My question is about the new leadership that you established. I'd like to ask the aspirations and hope of Mr. Toyoda. The situation in Ukraine and North Korean situation, taking into account carbon neutrality and many other challenges right now. In that difficulty, under your new leadership, that of course you are the competitors in your daily business, but the top leaders now are the new vice chairperson. So this is a brand new structure in this difficult situation, non-transparent era. So how do you intend to exercise your leadership in this difficult time? Thank you very much. Now, I would like to respond. With this new leadership structure, how are we going to lead our organization? In Japan, the JAMA is our organization. This is a Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association. So this is representing Japanese companies in Japan. Here in Japan, automobile industry, what is the role and function we are playing in that COVID-19 situation in the last 2 years? As I said at the beginning, that Japanese capital investment and equipment fund is 12 trillion. We earned 25 trillion yen of foreign currency, and 270,000 new jobs were created. So the memberships, 2 million membership to JAMA. But related to auto industry, there are as many as about 10% of Japanese employees work for auto-related industry, 5.5 million. Therefore, that I've been repeatedly mentioning that in the difficult era and the challenging era, we should work together to head toward the future. In other words, the Japanese automobile JAMA, we include a full lineup companies that the passenger and then the heavy duty and mini car and then the motorcycles. In other words, we are so competitive with diverse manufacturing companies as our members. So JAMA consists of a full lineup of companies, and that's quite significant that the leadership represent that. And we cope with the case and the carbon neutrality challenges, so that all these different challenges, passenger car and the mini and the heavy duty and so on, each sector has a different challenges and issues. So the people who are most well versed in that area should exercise leadership as the leaders, so that we all get together to protect auto industry in order to achieve prosperity, cost prosperity. In that sense, we have as 5 auto-related industry associations getting together. It's a new type of collaboration. So we like to work with all those 5 associations as well to deepen the cooperation, to unite the power of 5.5 million people working in this area, and we'd like to work harder in the upcoming 2 years toward a better future. That's my comment. But I knew we now have a new vice chairman, Mr. Uchida and Mr. Suzuki. Maybe they have their own hopes and aspirations as the new leaders of JAMA. Please add. Thank you very much, Mr. Toyoda. Formally, I was assigned as the vice chairman JAMA. I'm from Nissan. Last year in November, at the press conference, I already commented the environment surrounding us is going through the major change. This year, things are very difficult. We all 5 companies, each company cannot really cope with the difficult situation. So as I said before, I think each company should really work together, hone our skill, enhance our value. But as to the common challenges, we should unite ourselves and jointly the struggle and head towards such difficulty. From that aspiration, I propose to set up a support team. And then beyond the boundaries of this company, we are working together. As Mr. Toyoda mentioned earlier, that the growth and distribution are important, and we take measures against this reform taxation. And then not just limited to auto industry, but we need to collaborate with the other industries here and so on. So carbon neutrality is the same thing. As a Japan auto industry, Tokyo Motor Show is a new idea. So that's a representative situation. So we should go beyond the boundaries of each company and work together. Then not only good for the automotive industry, but it will contribute to the prosperity of all the industries here in Japan. That's what I would like to contribute. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the question. carbon neutrality, case technology are challenges that we have to tackle with the All Japan team. As Mr. Uchida mentioned, the young people of the companies of the chairman and vice chairman started up a team to work beyond company borders. So this new initiative has already started. This is one of our activities that we started, and in addition to just supporting the daily lives of people, mini cars support the last 1 mile. And for the future and for the earth, mini cars can play a very big role. So as a member of JAMA, we would like to meet people's expectations of mini cars and make contributions. Please continue to support us. Thank you very much. Does that answer your question? Thank you very much. Thank you. Now let us move on to Mr. Kondo from the Asahi Shimbun. From the Asahi Shimbun, my name is Kondo. We hear you. I have a question about the taxation system. Mr. Toyoda mentioned that this is a priority topic for JAMA. So about the revision of automobile-related taxes, what is the direction in your request to the government, and what do you see as a priority issue? If I start talking about this, it's going to be very long, but let me be very brief. JAMA so far has continued to say that complex and overburden of taxes should be simplified. We've asked for alleviating the burden of taxes. Some of our requests have been realized, but sometimes we haven't seen any fundamental revision. Some of the to get the resources, other taxes have been initiated. We've had a permanent tax reduction as well, but still, automobile taxes in Japan is the highest in the world. If you look at the current situation in Japan, including energy policy, a growth strategy to realize carbon neutrality is essential. How to position the auto industry as a core industry and protect employment is going to be very important. So we need in-depth, thorough discussions, and within that we have to create a new automobile taxation system. Towards future growth of Japan, a grand design will have to be rewritten. That is our view at JAMA. So rather than the traditional ministry battle, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, the growth strategy and the lives of the people will have to be discussed. On years and off years, or silo-based government structures should be done away with. Medium to long-term direction and short-term discussions should be separated. Mr. Kondo, does that answer your question? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Mr. Tanigawa of Car Watch, please. Tanigawa of Car Watch. Hope you can hear me. Yes, we can. I have one question. A year ago, on the 22nd of April, the JAMA had a conference, and the chairman Toyoda said that our board would like to aim at the carbon neutrality, but that's not all, because the multiple initiatives will be taken by JAMA. So something became visible. Of course, you intend to continue this effort, but you have identified a new maybe roadmap. Could you please tell us your future activity roadmap? Where are you now, Mr. Tanigawa? This is the background of Fuji 24-hour race place. It's a virtual, so I'm not overseas or any place. But there will be soon that there will be the event, and I'm sort of getting the spirit of the event. Anyway, as to the carbon neutrality, comments were made by us, and then Prime Minister Suga at that time said by 2050 carbon neutrality must be achieved. So that's the starting point of carbon neutrality target, and we wanted to induce a correct understanding, and all the industry should work together to achieve the carbon neutrality target. I repeatedly said this message. But still, each company, automobile companies have a strength and different positions and so on. So just the average limited content was maybe launched earlier because we have to really get the views of everyone. But that of course, enemy is the CO2, the carbon, not the internal combustion engine itself. So the options should never be narrowed down. The range of options should be diverse and multiple. So we have, of course, disclosed information one after another, but new. In Japan, we have a full lineup of electric vehicles and so on and so forth. We have a strength in Japan. We can contribute to the carbon neutrality target to be achieved. So again, anew, we would like to ask the people to continue to support our industry, and I'm sure everyone around us had a deeper understanding now about what we are saying. Depending upon the strength of each company, task force should be formed so that the choices should not be narrowed down in terms of technology and so on. In the past, JAMA used to say that in this menu of EV, they put the priority on their own. Oh, number one choice is this and that. That used to be our message. But now in Japan, each company has each strength, area of strength, and then each company has the customers under them. So the mobility users, the customers of each company, in other words, all the customers should never be left behind, and that continuously that industry was supported but by the suppliers and others. So we should never narrow down the range of choices. So that's very important, keep that multiple choices. But in terms of electrification, we have challenges, the battery production, some of the BEV parts and components. We depended on the China, used to be, in terms of procurement. That's still the problem. And then as to the electric power, that the demand will go up. And then as to the renewable energy as well, I think there's a plan to increase it. In case of Japan as well, cost to be borne was never discussed in terms of that new technology and energy. So there are issues to be solved before realization. So the future outlook is still the non-transparent. We should never narrow down the choices of technology. Regulation should never put forward to restrict that. After the COVID-19 restriction will be relaxed, and the top leaders of the world will come to the summit hosted in Japan in the near future. So for the media reporters, I would like to ask you to understand that Japan has our way to climb to the same summit. So your report should be broad-based, not just based on one choice. Carbon neutrality should be achieved by everyone so that it's for the sake of the Earth. And I would like to ask you your cooperation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mibe, anything on that, the current question?
Ms. Mibe-san, are you connected with your microphone?
まだマイクが入ってないようですが、すみません。
Mr. Mibe is attending this conference from the USA. He looks the same, just like in the same room, but he's from the US now.
Then, before that, maybe we can ask Mr. Katayama.
Thank you. I'm Katayama for this opportunity. As Mr. Toyoda mentioned, let me talk about my focus on the heavy-duty vehicles. That is to say, it's the same message. But anyway, a year ago, we felt that the choices of technology and so on should never be narrowed down or restricted. For each company by 2026, technology and others will be further developed and investigated. But in the last 1 year, that was the direction we headed toward. And what we decided at the beginning is very, very important. That's my the feeling. Because the heavy-duty trucks, people would say, oh, it's just one particular sector, but we have a tiny pickup, as there's a huge heavy-duty vehicles. And the way it's used also is diverse. Some are transportation of the goods, some are working vehicles that at the construction site they are working, and some are used only on the urban downtown or in the deep in the mountains for the mining and other activities. So including all these things, including some of these other components, diverse kind of heavy-duty vehicles, technology is evolving very, very rapidly. Therefore, quite often, that as to the small vehicles, that the battery-based technology, and for the heavy vehicles, that the long distance should be covered by the fuel cell. But that's not really wrong to categorize like that. But I think there are numerous options and numerous combinations. Carbon neutral fuel is now expected to play the major role, but in reality, depending on where the vehicle is used, social infrastructure is so difficult to be supported deep in the mountains like mounts. It might be quite difficult. That chassis may not be developed to suit to the particular place. Therefore, taking that into account, I think many diverse ways of potentials should be explored and studied. The more you study, you say that our direction we launched a year ago was correct and necessary. And another point I'd like to make is that we are involved in the logistics, that trucks are used by the customers for their work. B2B is a very important function. As a monitor vehicle, they might try and test it. The vehicle, is it really usable in the logistics field, Gemba? What is a kind of carbon neutral or electrified vehicle which are suitable for the logistics frontline? If we just work by one company, I think the function is limited. We have to really work together through the alliance. So the social implementation should be fully prepared with the partners. We have a major impact on society at large. So through the JAMA, we would like to really seek the sort of a society building which will accept the electrified vehicles and others. So we are trying to really do what we said a year ago.
Now, Mr. Mibe, are you ready? Now, can you hear me? Yes. Sorry for my microphone not working. From my side, let me talk about JAMA's activities in the area of carbon neutrality. Carbon neutral is a very long-term challenge. And as Mr. Toyoda mentioned, there are many technologies that are still in the process of evolution. So technology neutral is our basic thinking, and we are pursuing carbon neutrality with that thinking. And towards achieving carbon neutrality, visualizing CO2 measurements is, first of all, necessary. A life cycle CO2 emissions calculation has to be done. Japan wants to lead international discussions on how to measure or calculate that. And at the same time, supply chain, all supply chain suppliers and stakeholders will need to have a full understanding. So we're starting that initiative. And on the 16th of this month, end of May, before end of May, G7 climate discussions, energy and technology broad option necessity is discussed based on OICA discussions. So we work with other countries, industry organizations and governments so that we can achieve carbon neutrality, so that we can achieve international competitiveness as the auto industry. Now from Mr. Hidaka for motorcycles, please. Thank you very much for your question. Let me talk about motorcycles, carbon neutrality. At the outset, as the chairman mentioned, there are many options when it comes to carbon neutrality, and we are in an era of major transformation. So companies competing against each other is not enough. We need areas in which collaborate with each other. Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, the four companies have started various initiatives, especially for Class 1 and 2 mopeds, daily use scooters. Convenience of the customers, resource circulation, and cost reduction will have to be considered. And from that perspective, in addition to electrification, commonization of swappable batteries are considered necessary. The four motorcycle companies decided upon a technical spec, and just a technical paper was issued so that swappable batteries can be used by everybody. We believe that will lead to speeding up the development of infrastructure. And this year in April, the four motorcycle companies and ENEOS aiming at development of infrastructure of swappable batteries, we established a new company called Gachako, and we want to spread this within Japan. And overseas, various companies have come up with various different specifications, and this is not considered good. In particular, the European Japanese motorcycle companies have already established a battery consortium. International standardization is being discussed. So by JAMA participating in these discussions, we will introduce the new specification to others, and we are also participating in international standardization discussions. As I mentioned, electrification is not everything. In motorcycles, a hydrogen combustion is also being jointly developed. Bioethanol and synthetic fuel also have potential, so we would like to explore these paths as well. In any case, these cannot be done just by individual companies. The government's infrastructure policy and other industries are people that we have to work with, and that is how we intend to proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was comment. Now, Mr. Yamamoto of Yomiuri has a question. Good morning. Yamamoto of Yomiuri newspaper. My question is about the yen depreciation as well as the escalating price of the materials and supply. Yen is getting weaker, so what do you think of that, the weak yen? And then, of course, which will escalate maybe this escalating price of this material, raw material and equipment. Maybe the Vice Chairman Nagasawa will comment.
Now let me answer that question. With regards to the weaker yen, as you know, the automobile industry is an export industry. So with the weaker yen, many people think that we have an advantage, but the reality is not that simple. As you see on the screen, usually When the yen gets weaker, vehicle exports will give us an advantage of the weaker yen. That means revenue and profits will go up. But this time, under the current environment, resources, material, and parts import prices have gone up, soared actually. So the demerits are expanding. So in terms of export of vehicles, parts procurement is limited, so the merits of the weaker yen is limited. But in terms of import of materials and raw material, this has pushed up the cost much more than usual. Under the current international environment, the dollar is the only currency that is strong. So the emerging countries are pushing up their interest rates. So funding and automotive loans, negative impact has expanded. Of course, current exchange rates are to be determined by the market, but for automobile industry that has international activities, we hope that the foreign currency market will be stable, reflecting the fundamentals of the economy. With regards to the soaring material prices with the weaker yen, as the chairman mentioned, the automobile industry works as a team. So return and distribution to all stakers will have to be done, and everybody will have to grow together. That is very important. The impact is very large for all companies. If you look at the financial results statements, more than the foreign exchange profits, there is a negative impact of the soaring raw material prices. JAMA will work with Tier 1 companies, JAPIA members, to understand the real situation, and also we will take initiatives so that some action can be taken for Tier 2 companies as well. We all work together, so all suppliers and ourselves will have to work together to make ourselves more resilient. Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Yamamoto.
Next question will be from Mr. Shiraishi of Chunichi newspaper. I'm Shiraishi of Chunichi Shimbun. My question is about Ukraine situation and Russia, because many Japanese automobiles have been operating in Russia. But now, after the military invasion, it has become so difficult to do the procurement, and then they have stopped the factory operation and so on. But nowadays, some of the foreign automobile companies like Renault and McDonald's, they decided to withdraw from Russian market. So my question is that after the war started, it's been already 3 months. So what's the situation of the Russian business operation? How do you perceive it, evaluate it? And the difficult international condition will continue to last some time. What is the outlook of Russian business in the future? Thank you very much. Let me respond to this question on Russian situation. So on the 24th of February, that Russia invaded in Ukraine, and then so many the lives were lost, and safe livelihood is threatened. Energy and food started to become short as a reality. And together with the people of the world, we also feel so sad by this reality. But after the invasion, the war waged, no happiness will ever be born from such a situation. As soon as possible, I want the peace and safety and security will be restored in Ukraine as well as the rest of the world. It's been 3 months since the beginning of the war, and many companies operating overseas in Russia are faced with this turning point. For each company makes its own decision according to its own circumstances. But the automobile industry is so-called B2C industry, so that many stakeholders are involved in this sector. So amongst our stakeholders, that globally about 500 million people 5 million people do own the vehicle. And then I think in the world, the number of the countries are so numerous, I think. Therefore, in that context, that the international proper order is now being affected, undermined, and split. So we may be forced to make certain judgment and decision. And the global numerous stakeholders are supporting our industry, but we need to get understanding and sympathy from our supporters and stakeholders. So we would like to closely monitor the situation so that our stakeholders will continue to support us. In the split world today, the media or SNS information tend to just overemphasize this conflict to get the page viewers and so on, and that's something we see as a trend. But I would like to ask the Japanese media and other media, I would like to ask them earnestly that lives are being lost right now, and the accurate and timely reporting of that is very important for the journalists. So the Japanese media, I think, is trusted, and their trust is currently being tested globally. So again, I would like to ask you to try to convey the common message that we all want the peace and stability be restored in the world. So that's my message on this question. Thank you, Mr. Shiraishi. Are you satisfied? Yes, thank you very much.
Now, because of time limitations, let us make the next question the last one from Toyo Keizai. Kigawa-san, please. My name is Kigawa from Toyo Keizai. Do you hear me? Yes. To Mr. Toyoda, I have a question about energy. One priority issue is to realize a carbon neutral society. You mentioned in Japan, the renewable energy cost burden is not being discussed, and crude oil and LNG prices are going up with the Russian situation. And in Tokyo, we had an alarm of potential shortage of electricity. For carbon neutrality, non-carbon electricity will be very important. Keidanren takes the position of promoting the use of nuclear energy plants. What is JAMA's view on nuclear energy plants, and including renewable energy? What kind of proposals or requests on energy do you have to the government? Yes, for carbon neutrality, production, transportation, and use of energy, all industries will have to participate for the globe or the earth. That is what will have to be done. How to position and handle nuclear energy was the question. The automobile industry is a B2C industry. With nuclear energy, the reality is that there are some people in Japan who are not able to go back to their hometowns because of nuclear energy plants. So whether nuclear energy should be included as renewable energy is one discussion point, but safety should come first, including in crisis times. So safety first, and also a discussion on whether energy as a lifeline is affordable for everybody. These two are important when we consider environmental issues or energy issues in the future. So the perspective of the users, the safety first perspective will have to be seen as important. Mr. Toyoda, unless it is clean with carbon neutrality, because of life cycle assessment, it will be difficult to export from Japan. So renewable energy cost burden was not discussed, as you mentioned. So on this point, do you have any requests to the government, like accelerating those discussions? Yes. Production, transportation, and use of energy. Narrowing the options on the use side with regulations is not the way to go. Of course, we will make efforts towards the regulations, but when it comes to carbon neutrality, production, transportation of energy are also important in realizing carbon neutrality. We hope everybody understands that point, rather than focusing just on use. Even if you just regulate the production side, like if we export vehicles from Japan and earn foreign currencies, if the energy situation does not change, we will not be able to export vehicles from Japan sometime in the future, and that will lead to employment issues. And the competitiveness of the auto industry in Japan will be reduced in areas where our efforts will not be able to tackle. Employment is increased and foreign currencies are earned by the auto industry, so we hope you support the auto industry and have high expectations for the industry. Please don't pick out the automobile industry as the sole villain. That is our request. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that you would still like to ask many more questions, but the time is up right now. And so with that, I have to end today's press conference. Again, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much.